the different terminologies, what is a medical device, and we saw the general block diagram, right? And also we looked at the operational modes. Now we'll move on to the second half of the unit. So where we'll be seeing the measurement constraints, classification, and biostatistics. And there is one more topic left, which is regulations, which we'll discuss in the next class. Okay. So to give you a quick recap, so this was the PPT which we discussed in the last class. So the basic concepts of medical instrumentation. We started with the global medical device market, the definition by World Health Organization, what is a medical equipment. So a medical equipment is used for specific purpose of diagnosis and treatment following a disease or injury. Okay, so it can be either used alone or in a combination with any other accessory. And then we saw this block diagram. So let me just quickly recap that also. So you have a measurement where you measure the physiological parameters, and then you have a sensing element followed by a conversion element. Together it's called as a transducer, and then you have a power source for the conversion element and also for the output display. In between you have a signal processing circuit where you will be amplifying, filtering on all the things you do with the signal. And then here you receive the output, and there is a feedback and a control system here. So a part of the output is fed back to the system again. And then there is a calibration signal. So like I said, all the medical equipment needs calibration, right? So we need a calibration signal, and then there is a radiation and other applied energy for other medical devices which is used for treatment purposes. And then you have a data storage and data transmission. So this is the generalized medical instrumentation system. Like I said, this is a very repeated question which you can expect in all the university exams. Okay. And these definitions and all we have discussed, and then these operating modes we have discussed. So today we'll move on to the next topic, which is medical measurement constraints. So before moving on to the constraint thing, we'll be discussing about what are the different physiological signals and how it is measured. Okay. So these are the various physiological and medical parameters which are measured from the human body. Let me just zoom it so that you can able to view it clearly. Okay. So the first one is ballistocardiography. So ballistocardiography, if you split the words, it's ballistic, cardio, and graphy. So cardio is referring to the heart, which I said in the last class. Graphy is the technique, and ballisto is measurement of force. Okay, so you use some force sensors to measure the functionality of the heart. So that is the ballistocardiography technique. So the range of parameter for each signal is given here. So what is the normal range, what is the signal frequency range, and which sensor is used. We generally use a strain gauge sensor or an accelerometer or a LVDT. Okay, so all these things you would have studied in your basics of measurement and instrumentation, I suppose. So these four sensors are used to measure the activity of the heart. So that is the first technique. Second one is bladder pressure. So to measure the bladder pressure, which is your urinary bladder. So for urinary bladder, what is the range of the parameter? It is 1 to 100 centimeter H2O, and the signal frequency is DC to 10 Hertz. So the frequency unit here is Hertz. Okay. So it is measured using a strain gauge manometer. And third one is blood flow measurement. So blood flow, the normal range is 1 to 300 ml per second, and the signal frequency is DC to 20. It is measured using a flow meter. So flow meters we'll be discussing in your fourth unit. Like I said, in your syllabus you have a specific topic called blood volume measurement. So here you will be discussing how we are going to measure the blood flow and all. Okay. So that is one thing. So this tabulation is like a consolidation of all the physiological parameters. We are not going to study each and every technique in detail. We'll be studying very specific methods which are commonly used in hospitals. Okay. And blood pressure measurement, like I said in the last class, we have direct measurement and indirect measurement. So this can be measured using a strain gauge manometer or auscultation strain gauge, or you can use a sphygmomanometer, which is generally used. And then venous blood pressure, they use a separate strain gauge. So these are the different values. And for blood gas measurement, we use electrodes. So this electrodes and its specific functionality we'll be studying in your fourth unit. So here you have a separate topic called blood gas analyzers, where you will be discussing all these blood gas measurements and these electrode types and functionality. And pH also will be studying in your fourth unit. So here this is the normal range and the signal frequency range, and we use a pH electrode for that. pH electrode, I suppose you would have studied in your engineering chemistry subject, I suppose. And these signals like electrocardiography, electroencephalography, electrogastography, electromyography, electroocculogram, all these things we'll be studying. Not all the things, we'll be studying electrocardiography. So let me just quickly make a document. Okay, so when we study this subject, the main thing you have to remember is three words. So graph is the recorded, graph is the recorded output, graphy is the, oh sorry, gram is the recorded output, graphy is the technique, and graph is the instrument used to measure. So why I'm typing this in specific is that if you are going to study about ECG, okay, ECG is electrocardiography. So this graphy represents the technique of measuring the heart signal. So if you split the words electrocardio and graphy, you will have electro stands for electric signals, cardio refers to heart, and graphy is the technique. Okay. So similarly for EEG, EMG, all those things, whatever the signal you are measuring, these three words are very, very important. So in exam, if you are asked about electrocardiography, then you write about the technique of measuring the heart signal. If you are asking the electrocardiograph, then you explain about the instrument, the block diagram, and how it is used. And if you're asked about electrocardiogram, if instead of graphy, if I give electrocardiogram here, then which means you have to write about the signal. So the output signal which you are getting. Okay. So the signal frequency, what are the normal signals, abnormal signals, all those things. Okay. So this three words are very, very important. So I want everyone to remember this difference, because in question paper, if you're asked electrocardiogram, you have to write about the signal. If it is electrocardiography, you write about the technique. If it is electrocardiograph, you write about the instrument with the block diagram. Okay. So that's that. And okay, moving on. So here in this table, it's everything is graphy. So graphy is the technique. So ECG is electrocardiography. So you are referring to the electrical activity of the heart. Electroencephalography, where you refer the electrical activity of the brain. So this is the normal parameter range and the signal range. So we use different electrodes for measuring all these things. So how the electrode is used, what are the different types of electrodes, and the number of electrodes, and the specification of each and every electrode we'll be studying in the second section of your first unit. So here you have an exclusive section where you will be studying about different electrodes and how it is placed on the skin, everything. Okay. And electrogastography, gastro refers to the intestine. So if you are going to measure the electrical activity of the intestine, then it is electrogastography. Cardio is heart, encephalo is brain, gastrography is referring to the intestine. Electromyography is referring to the electrical activity of the muscles. Okay. So each and every topic you will be studying in detail, so no need to worry. Okay. So electromyography is referring to the electrical activity of the muscles. Okay. So here we use different electrodes. So needle electrode is used, and also surface electrode is used, and eye potentials. So all these electrical signals, our human body is made up of a nervous system, you know that, right? So the nervous system will always conduct the electrical signals from the brain and also from the spinal cord. So each and every organ in the body is working based on the bioelectric signal, right? So we use different methods to measure each electrical activity of the organ, right? So for eye, we have electroocculogram and electroretinogram. So oculogram refers to the movement of the eyeball. So whenever your eyeball is moving, in that case, you will have some signal change which we can measure. And this is the electroretinogram, which is used to measure the electrical activity of the retina. Maybe I can type that also for your quick understanding. Electrocardiography refers to the heart. Electroencephalography for the brain. Electromyography to study the muscle activity. Electrooculography to study the eye movement. Electroretinography to study the retina and its electrical activity. Electrogastrography to study about the intestine. Okay, so when we add electro in front of any recording technique, electro stands for measuring the electrical activity. Okay, so there is another one called magneto cardiography, magnetoencephalography. All these things you will be studying in your higher semesters. Okay, so electro stands for measuring the electrical signals. Okay, and there is other physiological parameter called a galvanic skin response. So galvanic skin response is to measure the electrical conductivity in the skin. So usually, if you had heard about the lie detector test, so usually in criminal investigation in movies and all, you would have seen where they keep some electrodes to the criminal and they will ask him questions continuously to check whether the person is lying, right? So at that time, they will check all the physiological parameters like ECG and then GSR. They will try to find out the sweat and its electrical conductivity in the palm. So if the person is sweating, then the conductivity of the skin will change and the resistance also will change. So based on that, they will find out whether the person is lying or not. Okay, so GSR is also one thing. And then gastric pH. So it's specifically to study the stomach and its pH. Okay, so we have specific electrodes for that. And yeah, moving on to the next slide. So, similarly, for gastrointestinal pressure and gastrointestinal force, so this is specific to the GI tract. So, inside the stomach, you can measure the pressure and also the force. So, you have manometer and LVDT to measure these parameters, and these are the signal frequency range. And then to measure the nerve potential. So nerve potential is generalized term. So all these things are nerve potentials. Like all the electrical activities are nerve potentials. So in general, for nerve potentials, we use surface or needle electrodes. And then there is another term called phonocardiography. So phonocardiography, uh, here we have seen electrocardiography, right? So if I just put phono here, phonocardiography. We already know what is cardio. Cardio refers to heart, graphy refers to the technique. Phono refers to sound. So we are going to study the heart sound. Okay. So that is phonocardiography. So this is another one topic which you'll be studying in your higher semester papers. Right now we won't be discussing that in detail. Okay. And next one is plethysmography. So plethysmography is to measure the volume change. So we use different electrodes for measuring the volume changes in the lungs and also in the blood vessels. So this thing we'll be studying in your third unit. So there is a separate topic called plethysmography and photoplethysmography. So we'll discuss that in your third unit. Okay. And then pneumotachography again is to measure the flow rate. Okay. So this is again to measure the respiratory function. So plethysmography and pneumotachography, all the two, both the two techniques are used to measure the lung volume changes and lung pressure changes. Okay. And there is a respiratory rate measurement where you use a strain gauge on the chest and there is a nasal thermistor. So there is a separate instrument for measuring the respiratory rate, but that is not in your syllabus. So I'm not going to discuss that. And it is tidal volume and temperature of the body. So temperature of the body, we can use thermistor and thermocouple. All these things we have lab experiments. So during lab experiments, we can see how we are using thermistor and thermocouple. And these are the different medical and physiological parameters. So what are the different constraints here? So the issue with measuring the physiological parameter is that you have to find the right sensor to measure the signal. So if you can see the last column here, each method has a different sensor or a different transducer here. So whatever the signal you are going to measure, it has some different range and different signal frequency. So you have to use the specific sensor or the specific electrode to measure the particular signal from the human body. Because human body is a complex system with lot of organs and or lot of systems, right? So you need to use a specific electrode, whether it's a surface electrode or needle electrode, whatever it is, whatever signal you are going to measure, you have to use that particular electrode to obtain the signal which you are going to find. So that is the constraint in measurement of this physiological parameters. Okay, is that clear? Any doubts up to this? Any questions? Shall I move on to the next topic?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, good. So the next topic is classification of biomedical instruments. So the classification is quite a vast area because we can't just classify biomedical instruments these to these four categories alone. Because when I say classification, there is a separate organization called FDA. So FDA is the one, Food and Drug Administration. So this is in US. So this organization is mainly concerned with classification of medical devices. In India, you have CDS SCO. So this is the organization. So this is Central Drug Standard and something I forgot the abbreviation. So FDA and CDSCO. So these are the organizations which are going to classify the medical instruments. But that thing we'll discuss in your fifth unit. Okay. So in fifth unit we'll be studying about what are the different biomedical devices, how we are going to develop, how it is classified, all those things. Okay. So here we'll just classify the medical instruments based on its function alone. Okay. So if you are going to look at the function alone, first one is the quantity that is sensed. So whatever the measurement which you are going to take from the body, whether it is body pressure or blood flow or body temperature, whatever it is. So based on the function, whatever the variable you are going to take from the body, you can classify the medical instruments. So that is the first category. Second one is principle of transduction. So, like I said, a sensor will just measure the value. A transducer will measure the value and then convert it into an electrical signal, right? So, this definition we have already discussed in the last class, right? So, sensor will convert the physical measurement, which will measure the physical measurement, and transducer will convert one form of energy to the another. So, in the transducer, we have different principles. So one can be a resistive transducer, or it can be based on inductive principle, capacitive principle, or ultrasonic, or it can be an electrochemical transducer. So if you look at the previous table, we have seen the different sensors here, right? So each one is based on different principle. So based on the principle of the transduction, we can classify the biomedical instruments. Third one is organ system. So whichever organ you are going to measure, or whichever organ system you are going to detect the functionality. In that case, we can classify the instrument as cardiovascular, which is related to heart and the blood vessels; pulmonary, which is related to lungs; endocrine, which is related to the glands, which secrete the hormones and the enzymes; nervous system, which is generally any nerve potential you can measure. Okay, so this is with related to the organ system. And last one is based on clinical medicine specialty. So this is related to the hospital settings. So in hospital we have different departments, right? Pediatrics, obstetrics, cardiology, radiology, all those things. So based on where in the hospital we are going to keep the equipment, we can classify. So based on quantity that is sensed, we can classify it as pressure, flow, and temperature. Based on the principle of transduction, you can classify it to resistive, inductive, capacitive, ultrasonic, and electrochemical. Based on the organ system, you can classify it to cardiovascular, pulmonary, endocrine, and nervous. And based on the clinical medicine specialty, you can classify it as pediatrics, obstetrics, cardiology, and radiology. Okay, so this is the classification of biomedical instruments. And all these things you can refer in your first textbook, which is John G. Webster. I have already uploaded that in your in Google Drive. I'll share the Google Drive link so you can download and you can refer that. Okay, and so the second textbook also is available with me. The third reference book is also there. So all the textbooks and reference book, I'll share the Google Drive link so you can download that one. And the syllabus and the course materials are updated in Moodle page. So Moodle access, I think you guys wouldn't have received so far, but by 28th you will be given access. Okay, so once access is provided, you can start using Moodle and you can download all the notes. Okay, so that's it about the medical devices classification and the different types and modes. So the next topic is biostatistics. So this is the PPT for biostatistics. Let me just adjust the zoom. Okay. Okay. Before going to biostatistics, is everyone clear with the topics discussed so far? Yes. Any doubts? Any questions?
No, ma'am.
No. Good. Okay. So the next topic is biostatistics. So before going to biostatistics, I hope you guys would have heard about data science, right? So data science is like the new oil and all those things you'd have seen in various advertisements, right? So what is data science? Does anyone know what's data science? Yes, no?
Collection of data from a particular field, ma'am.
Excellent. So, collection of data. So, whatever data we are dealing with, if you're going to analyze and if you're going to find out some details from that, then it is called data science. So, data science has specialized courses right now. So, A and data science, A and ML, all those different courses are available in engineering degree also. And in abroad also, you can do online programs on data science and stuff, right? So, when I say biostatistics, so bio stands for living organisms, right? You all know that. Statistics refers to the different tools which we generally use to analyze the data. So data is something, for example, if you take, let me just say the COVID cases. So once I type COVID cases in Google, the first thing I get is a graph and there is a map, right? So in the map, you see where the cases are high and you can see the peak from July to August. So till date, whatever the data is available, it is plotted in form of a graph. So this is the data. So how we get this data? So how they collect the data? They take how whenever the person is testing or taking a COVID test, the person will be tested either positive or negative. So positive, they will be tracking and they will keep a record for storing the data, right? So for each and every day, they will perform some number of tests. They will take the data. They will store the data. If the person is tested negative, that is also stored separately. And there is a separate database for vaccination, right? So in vaccination, you will find out whether the person has taken the first dose, whether the person has taken the second dose, right? So this is the everyday example which you can see for the data which we are collecting and storing, right? So this is a data. So when you take this data and if you want to predict whether within the next 2 months the COVID cases will increase or whether it will decrease or whether it will be flat, right? So in that case, you will use some algorithm, right? So you'll use some tool, you'll use some computer code, right? So that is used to predict the data. So once you know the data from the previous 2 months or the previous year, so once you give that data to the computer will find out and it will predict whether the cases will increase or the cases will decrease. So that's how we use the data to predict the future, right? So that is one application which you can say about the statistics. So statistics is you use the different tools and different techniques to analyze the data. So what are the data you are having? You are going to use some tools to get some useful information from that. So biostatistics refers to the tools which we use for biological applications. Like this is one biostatistics. So this is related to the COVID cases in your India, right? So you can also change it to different countries. You can find out which country has most. You can change the time duration. You can change the death rate, new case rate, all these things. So in the Google itself, it's showing the word statistics, right? So statistics refers to the analysis on the data. Okay. So if you go to the definition, statistics refers to the methods used for organizing, analyzing, and interpreting the numerical data. So that is the standard definition. So the statistics can be categorized into two. One is descriptive statistics, another one is inferential statistics. So descriptive statistics is used to organize and summarize the data. So whatever we have seen here, so this is a descriptive statistics. So we have collected the data, we have organized it, and we have summarized it, right? So this is a descriptive statistic. Second one is inferential statistics. So this is used to make an inference on the basis of data about the non-existence of a relationship between the independent and dependent variable. So this is mainly used for the prediction purpose. For example, if you want to find out how many male and how many female are affected with COVID-19 over the past year, or if you're going to find out how many people above 18, below 18, and if you're going to do some analysis based on that, and if you're going to find out a relation between the age and the affected by COVID, then there is an inference, right? So you're trying to bring two variables and then you're going to relate them. Or you can say the height and weight of the person. So if you're going to find out whether the person's height is affected by COVID-19, or if the person's weight is causing the yearly affected by COVID-19, in such cases, then there is a relation between two different variables you are going to bring in, right? So in that case, it's an inference. So descriptive statistics is you just organize the data and summarize the data. Inferential statistics is you are going to find out a relationship between the different variables. Okay. So now the biostatistics definition. So like I said before, the statistics is used in different fields. So we can use it in business, we can use it in education, psychology, agriculture, economics. Lot of domains have applications of statistics. So whatever the data they take, they will just give it to the statistical tools, and then they will analyze and uh, predict the whatever the research they are doing. For example, if you take agriculture, uh, people will be predicting whether there will be a rain today or not, right? So that is statistics. So they will take the rainfall over the past 3 months or over the past year, and then they load it to the algorithm, and that algorithm will tell you whether there will be a possibility of rain in the next few hours or the next few days and such things, right? Similarly, in business, you'll be seeing about trade trade and all, right? So in the business, whether there will be a profit or whether there will be a loss, in that cases the statistical tools are used. So when this statistics is used in biological science and medicine, we call it as biostatistics, right? So the definition goes like this. Biostatistics may be defined as the application of statistical methods to medical, biological, and public health related problems. So when you use statistical methods for any medical or any biological and public health related problems, we call it as biostatistics. So what we do in biostatistics, we collect the data, we present the data, we analyze and interpret the data, and make decisions based on such analysis. So like I showed here, so we collect the data of COVID cases and then we present the data. So we either plot it in form of a graph or bar chart or something like that. And then you analyze and interpret the results. So based on the data, you will say in the month of July, the cases strength is like this. In the month of August, the cases number is like this. And you make decisions based on such analysis. So what decision we generally over the past 2 years, the lockdown is based on this data, right? So whether there is a strict lockdown or whether there is a partial lockdown, the government will decide based on this data, right? So in biostatistics, we collect the data, we present the data, analyze and interpret the data, and we make decisions based on such analysis. Okay, so that is biostatistics. So why we need to learn biostatistics? So as medical electronics students, why we need to learn biostatistics? Because we are dealing with medical equipments, right? So when you are going for your masters or when you're going to do a research in biomedical engineering or medical electronics, you need to know about biostatistics, right? Or you can use those tools in your UG project also. So it is essential for scientific method of investigation. So whatever the problem you are going to analyze, you need to have some data, right? And then you need to formulate a hypothesis. For example, let's say now you are in second year, right? So if you're going for your third year or you're in final year, you'll be doing your mini project or you'll be doing your final year project. So let's say you are going to find out a device that will help people screen the COVID-19. So screen in the sense whether the person is COVID positive or COVID negative. So let's say you are going to make a device that will help people to detect whether the person is positive or not without taking any blood sample or without taking any samples from the body. Just by scanning the person, your instrument will give whether the person is tested positive or not. So in that case, you need to know how you are going to find out that, right? So you need to have some hypothesis. So hypothesis in the sense it is like a theory, but it's not proved yet. So you'll be having some relationship with blood pressure or blood temperature, whatever it is. So you'll have some hypothesis, and then you will start building your project, right? So you'll be designing your project, and then you will collect the data, and then you will process the data, and then you will find some conclusions from this. So this is a process we generally use in research, and this is used for your mini project and project also, right? So for all those things, you should know what is biostatistics, right? And role of statistics in clinical medicine. So in clinical medicine, like in hospital setting, how this is used. So the main theory of statistics lies in the term variability. So how it is varying. For example, no two persons are same. The blood pressure of a person may vary from time to time as well as from person to person. So if you're going to check BP of myself in the morning, it might be different. And if I go for a run and then come back, and if you take my BP, it will be different, right? So my blood pressure is not same throughout the day. And if you take blood pressure for myself and you, the blood pressure will be different. So each and every person BP varies, and for the same person also the BP will be varying. So the variability is the main thing which is used in clinical medicine, because whenever you go to a hospital, the first thing they will take is your temperature, and then they will check your BP, right? So this is one main important concept in clinical medicine. Second one is we can also have instrumental variability and observer variability. This is very, very important. When you are going to study the data occurred from the medical instruments, for example, let's say you are going to do a project on ECG. So ECG signal is electrical signal from the heart, right? So you are going to take ECG signals collected from the ECG machine, and you're going to do some processing, and you're going to find out some research based on that. Let's say that. So each instrument will have different setting. So if you take a ECG machine, lots and lots of ECG machines are available in the market, right? So you have a Philips machine, you have Toshiba, lots and lots of manufacturers, they have different instruments. So when you use each instrument will have a different setting, right? So the whatever signal you are collecting will be different, right? So if you measure ECG using a Philips machine, that will be having different parameter settings. If you are using, for example, if you are using Toshiba machine, then it will have some difference in the signal settings, right? So that is the instrumental variability. So that is one thing which is very, very important. Second one is observer variability. For example, you are having one lab technician, and you are asking him to measure the ECG of a person. So you are that person is taking the ECG signal, and then for the next month the person has left the job and another person comes. So this person will use the machine differently, right? So there is an observer variability. So the person who is using the instrument might use it different in a different sense. So the signal may not be same, right? So the instrumental variability is also there, and also observer variability is there, right? So all these things are causing your signal deviation. So when you are studying your biosignal processing course, in that you will be understanding this in a better way. And also in medical image processing also this is important. And last one is This statistical inference will provide largely objective means for drawing conclusions from the data about the issue under the study. So why the statistics is important is that, so the variability is the main concept, right? So the signal is variable, the instrument will cause some variations, the observer will cause some variations. So when we use a statistical tool, that tool will help you provide a objective conclusion. So objective conclusion is based on the data alone. So how the ECG signal is varying, how it is repeated, all those things will be checking, and based on that you will be saying whether the signal is normal or abnormal. Okay, so that is how statistics is used in clinical medicine. Uh, are you guys able to follow up to this? Am I going too fast?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you are clear up to this, right? No questions. Okay, great. So now we'll move on to the basic concepts. So when I say basic concepts, the first one is homogeneity. So previously I said about variability, right? So now there is a concept called homogeneity. Homogeneity is all individuals will have similar values or belong to the same category. For example, if you take all individuals or Indian women with the age 20 to 30 working in an IT company, then there is an homogeneity in nationality, gender, age, and occupation, right? So if you're going to take that data, then there is a homogeneity, which is a similarity. So that is one concept. Second one is variation. So if the same data, you can find out some differences. For example, the voice, the hair color, or whatever it is. So this group will have lot of variations. Their height may be different, their weight may be different, eye color may be different, hair color may be different, right? Their voice might be different. So within this category itself, you have a lot of variations. So that is the second concept. Third one is population. So population is the largest collection of values of a random variable for which we have an interest at a particular time. For example, if you take this data, you are concentrating mainly on the Indian population, right? So if you look at this graph right here, you are concentrating on the Tamil Nadu and Kerala population. So population refers to the group which we are currently focusing. So whatever the data we are taking, that collection of values is the population. For example, the weights of all the children enrolled in a certain elementary school. So if you are going to take weight of children in a particular school, then it is a population. So this population may be infinite or it can be finite also, depending on whatever the data you are taking. Second one is sample. Sample is a representative part of the population. For example, if you take the same example which I said before, weight of all the children enrolled in a certain elementary school. So elementary school kids weight we have measured. So if you are going to take a sample from that population, let's say I'm going to concentrate on the kids you are studying, who are studying in the pre-KG. So if I'm going to take the weights of pre-KG children, then it's a sample. So out of, let's say, 500 children, I have taken the weights and I'm going to take pre-KG. So let's say that that's about 25 to 50 students. So in that case, the 25 to 50 represents the sample. Okay, so population is the overall collection of random variables. Sample is the representative part of the population. And third one is randomization. Randomization is an important way to make the sample representative. So randomization is, let's say you randomly pick some 10 students from this category. So 500 students are there in that group and you're randomly going to take 5 students in a group, or if you're going to take 10 students in a group, then that process is called as randomization. Okay. So when I say random is by chance. So the event may or may not occur in one experiment. So for example, weather, traffic accident or something like that. For example, I said about the rainfall, right? So if you are predicting the weather, so that weather person will say it will be heavy rain today, but then there won't be any rain. So that event may occur or it may not occur, right? Sometimes they'll say it's a sunny weather for the next week, but then it will be raining heavily. So we cannot predict the values. So it may occur or it may not occur. So that is random. Next one is probability. So probability is the possibility of occurrence of a random event. So let's say there is a there is a chance of 50% rainfall today, which means there might be a chance of 50% sunny weather. So A is a random event, which is the rainfall. So the possibility of rainfall, for example. So P of A denotes the probability of the random event. So probability is whether the event will occur or not. So P of A is equal to 1 if an event always occurs. So for example, if you say about rainfall, P of A equal to 1 will denote there is a rainfall today. If P of A is equal to 0, then the event will never occur. So if the rainfall is not happening today, then which means your probability is equal to 0. Okay. And then if it is equal to 0.5, which means there is a 50-50 chance. So there might be raining or it may not be raining. Okay. So the probability is one important concept in statistics. And next concept is frequency or relative frequency. So frequency is the number of times an event is occurring, right? For example, if you take bus frequency, so if you're standing in a bus stop, if you're standing in an MTC bus stop, you will ask about the bus frequency, right? So for every 15 minutes, if you are getting a bus from Melacheri to Gindi or something like that, in that case, the bus frequency is 15 minutes, right? So frequency is the number of times an event is occurring. So if you're going to write it in terms of variables, number of observations is n. So n denotes the number of observations, and a random event is denoted by m. So if you're going to relate these two things using this formula, then frequency of a random event a is equal to m divided by n. M is the number of occurrences and n is the number of observations. So for example, if you're going to throw a coin, so 100 times if you're going to throw the coin, then m is the number of times face has occurred. So the heads and tails, right? So the number of times heads are occurred is 46. So which means the frequency is m by n. So 46 divided by 100, which is 46%. This is the frequency. And the probability is 50%. So that is the probability. Either heads will occur or there may be possibility of tails also, right? So that is the probability. So this is the relationship between frequency and probability. And next thing is data. So what's the data? The raw material of statistics is data, right? So data is the main thing which we need in a statistical analysis. So usually we use data as figures. So like I said, you use a chart, you use a graph, whatever it is, we use to represent data in forms of figures. So figures results from the process of counting or from taking a measurement. So usually we plot these graphs once we take the measurement, right? So this is a result of measuring the COVID cases over a period of time, right? So if you're going to take the last 2 weeks, so this is the data for the last 2 weeks and we have plotted it as a graph. And if you're going to take all time, then it starts from last year. So 11th June 2022 up to till date, they have plotted this graph, right? So the counting or taking a measurement, we are going to plot it as a figure. Simple example, when a hospital administrator counts the number of patients. So if you take a normal OP room in a hospital, in that case, if you are going to check the number of OP patients admitted per hour, in that case, that administrator will be counting, right? So the number of beds available and the number of patients occupied. So let's say if the OP room has 50 beds and if there are 25 patients, then 25 beds are free, so 25 more patients can occupy that, right? And when a nurse weighs a patient, then it's a measurement. So if you are using a weighing machine to measure the weight, then it is a measurement. So either it can be used by counting or it can be a result of measurement. So that's about the data. Next one is variable. So when I say variable, it's a characteristic that takes on different values in different persons, places, or things. So variable is something which keeps on changing. So in max, you would have studied, right? Constant and a variable. Constant will keep on having the same value. Variable will have different values at different time, right? For example, if you take the physiological parameters, heart rate is a variable. So the heartbeat will keep on changing. So if you are sleeping, your heart rate is different. If you are running, heart rate is different. If you are meditating, your heart rate will be different, right? So heart rate is a variable. Heights of adult males is a variable. So the person who is if you're going to take a male population in Chennai city and if you're going to measure the height, then obviously there will be a height changes. If you're going to measure the height of India, persons in India and persons of China, then the height will be different, right? So height is a variable and weight is also a variable and age is also a variable. So all these things are variables. So variable is something which is taking on different values. The important thing about variable is it can be classified into different categories. So the data, whatever the data you are taking, that data will definitely be a variable in terms of biostatistics. So biostatistics is we are dealing with biological signals and biological data, right? So all the data will be definitely a variable. So the types of variables, first one is quantitative and qualitative variable. Quantitative is referring to the variables that can be measured in the usual sense. So it can be measured in terms of numbers. Then it is quantitative. For example, height, weight, age, all these things will have a number, right? And also blood pressure, blood glucose. So you can actually make the variable as a number. Then that is a quantitative variable. Qualitative variable is it cannot be measured. So you can actually take the data, but you can't give a value for the data. So this can be ordered or it cannot be ordered. So if it is ordered, it's called an ordinal variable. If it is not ordered, it's called a nominal variable. So this thing I'll explain in the upcoming slide. For example, you are going to classify people into socio-economic groups. So based on caste, religion, or something like that. Or if you are going to group the people based on hair color, eye color, then that is a qualitative data. You can't give values for that data, right? And second group is discrete and continuous variable. So this discrete and continuous, I have already said it in the last class, right? So discrete is you are going to measure in a particular time interval. For example, the number of daily admissions to a hospital, or the number of times you check the blood pressure, number of times you measure the body temperature, something like that. So discrete is so discrete is characterized by gaps or interruptions in the values. Second one is continuous. So continuous will take any values within a specified relevant interval. For example, height, weight, and skull circumference. So this is a continuous variable. Or you can take the same graph itself. So if you are going to take this graph and you are going to plot it for every 1 month or every 6 months, then it is a discrete variable. But this is a continuous graph. So this graph shows every day the value, right? So every day's value is a continuous variable. So this is discrete and continuous. Second one is, third one is nominal and ordinal. So nominal refers to the naming category. For example, male and female, sick, well, married or single. So these are the nominal variables. So you give a name to that variable, right? So that is nominal. Ordinal is you can rank or order the data. So this is what I said in the previous slide. So this qualitative can be ordinal or it can be nominal. So nominal is based on naming and ordinal is based on some rank or an order. For example, if you take the blood pressure, you can say high BP, low BP or a normal BP. Or also if you take the exam grades, you can have a O grade, S grade, A grade, something like that, right? So if you can order or rank the data, then it is an ordinal variable. Okay. So if you have any questions up to this, you can ask me. Any doubts? Anything you want me to repeat?
Ma'am,
Yes, no?
discrete, ma'am.
Discrete one. Okay. So let me just okay. If I take a graph, it will be easy for you to understand. Yeah. Okay. So discrete will be something like this. Yeah. So if you're going to, let's say, if you take this graph, okay, discrete is you plot, let's say, okay, if I'm having fever and if you're going to measure my temperature for every 1 hour. So first 1 hour my temperature is like this, second hour it's like this, and my fever is increasing like that. So for each and every 1 hour, my values will be plotted like a graph. So this is my time and this is my temperature. So time versus temperature, if you are going to plot for every 1 hour, then it is a discrete variable. But if you are going to measure my temperature continuously, so then you'll be getting a graph like this. Then it is a continuous variable. So with respect to temperature, sorry, this is temperature and this is respect to time. Or let me make it as a simple one. Like I said about rainfall, right? So if this is the time duration and if this is the rainfall, so if you are going to plot it from January to December. So Jan, you are taking the rainfall. The rainfall is very low. March, it's low, and then it's going on increasing. And during winter, the rainfall is high. So every 1 month, you are taking the rainfall data and you are plotting. So you are getting a blocks like this. But if you are going to plot the rainfall for every day of the year, then it will be a continuous data. So each and every day of the year, starting from Jan to December, each day you are plotting the rainfall over a region. For example, in Tamil Nadu. So in Tamil Nadu, the rainfall over the year for every day is a continuous variable. But then if you are taking for every quarter or every month, then it is a discrete variable. Am I clear? Are you able to follow what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So this is discrete and continuous. Any other doubts? So far it's clear? Okay, let me just quickly stop the recording.